Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stitching Tales. I am Johanna Lundström, the author of several sewing books, including Sewing Jeans and Master the Cover Stitch Machine. I also have a sewing pattern line under the name The Last Stitch, and I also run a YouTube channel about sewing.
My name is Malena Hjerpe, and I am a freelance pattern maker, and I also create my own PDF pattern under the name Hazelhen Patterns.
And normally we talk about sewing and running a sewing business, but you had a great suggestion for this episode, Malena, that maybe we should be a bit more personal in this episode. So if you want to learn more about ourselves, what we're not doing perhaps when we are not sewing and running our businesses, this is the episode for you. So we have a few questions that we will do our best to answer, and hopefully you will enjoy this a little bit different episode. But I personally always like to find out more about people that I follow, because I find it's also interesting to see a little bit more what goes behind the scene and more about the person. So you, Malena, you suggested this theme for this episode. So I'm really curious, what questions do you have in store for us?
Well, my first question, and I've had this in the back of my mind ever since I met you and since we met up in your studio, because I was shocked and in a positive way shocked. Was amazed, and I want the listeners to also be part of this. Johanna, how big is your fabric stash? Show us the stash. Show us the stash.
Yeah, I might bend down here. So
Johanna is now picking up her fabric stash. I mean, she can literally pick it up.
Yeah, it's a big plastic box, and honestly, this is one of two plastic boxes. So
you have two now. It was one.
I think it was only one. Yeah. But I have so much denim fabric now, and that takes up a lot of space. But yeah, so we will definitely post a photo on our Instagram account, Stitching Tales Pod. But underneath my standing desk is two, I would say, fairly large plastic boxes with fabric. In one box it's woven fabric, and in one box it's knitted fabric. So yeah, that's my stash.
That's a very how do you say, not controlled, but very modest amount, I would say.
Yeah, I do try to keep it in, and still it gives me slight anxiety because I feel like I have too much. I still feel like I'm not sewing as much as I'm buying fabrics, even though I don't really buy any fabrics right now. But yeah, it's interesting. So, Malena, what's your stash situation like?
Unfortunately, I'm not at the office at the moment, so I can't show you. But it's bigger. It's not at all a visual representation of me and my aesthetic, at all. I usually buy my fabrics. I buy when it's a good sale. I buy it, and mostly knitted fabric, I would say. So it could be any colors, any prints, weird prints, colors, everything. But I do it because I want to have those cheap fabrics for samples. So it's more a sample fabric collection that I have. Crazy looking fabrics, very cheap, and it's great to have this stash, because then whenever I want to make a sample, try something out, I just use that fabric. I don't feel like I'm wasting a lot of money when I sew them, because it was so cheap. So that's why I do have, I mean, it's not a big stash, but definitely more than you. I will take a picture as well and post it on Instagram. I have one of those classic bookshelves from IKEA, Kallax, I think it's called.
Kallax, yeah. Expedit Kallax now, yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those. So yeah, I have all my fabrics in that. But
you have them nicely rolled, yeah. I think I remember. I've seen your stash as well, and I remember they're very, very nicely rolled and stashed on top of each other.
I do try to make them.
So it looks quite neat. It doesn't, even though perhaps you have more, how to say, it's a more eclectic mix of prints, I would say.
Yeah,
and fabric also, and colors.
Yeah, and I give especially my mom. She whenever she has the extra fabric or finds some really cheap on a second-hand shop, or she has some relatives that gives to her, she gives them to me again for making samples. So yeah, it's the stash is growing even if I'm trying not to buy specific things. And I honestly I try to avoid looking at sales like in general unless I'm looking for something specific, just because like you get that urge to like then you just want to buy, and if I don't have a project in mind, then it's just gonna sit in my stash. But I understand that in the sewing community there are two different kinds of hobby. There is the sewing hobby and then there is the look at this pretty fabric, I want to have it hobby. Totally understand that.
Totally understandable. And I definitely have that addiction as well. I mean, I'm a real sucker for prints, and if I find a beautiful print, I usually end up buying it if it's nice quality, nice fiber content, because it's just so rare, I think, for me to find prints that really speak to me. So I do have a tendency of overbuying prints and then kind of be like, what should I do with this now? I guess, obviously, at the end of the day, I'm just maybe want to have some nice, solid colored knit or a piece of cotton twill or something like that, because I need to make a new pair of pants. But then I have like 3 or 4 different like silk prints or something like that. And I'm like, I'm not really in the mood for sewing a silk shirt, because that's kind of cumbersome in a ways. It's a more difficult material to work with. So they just end up. So I do have definitely some pretty fabrics that doesn't really, end up being made into garments. But yeah, one day perhaps.
Yeah, it's I have a lot of those fabrics. I'm like, one day, maybe. One day, yeah. Did you have any? What's the first question on your list?
Yeah, because I found here a questionnaire online, and this is more of a personal question, I guess. So, Malena, what's your favorite way to spend a weekend?
Well, I have a little bit of like a before and after. Like before a weekend, I mean, I like to work out, and whenever we had any long weekends, like my husband and I, we love to travel. So love to go to, I mean, in Europe you can fly for quite a short amount of time and you come to a new country, which is really nice. And we lived abroad before, so we traveled a lot. And but I always I'm in search a little bit for a hobby, since I kind of lost my hobby as sewing when I started to work with it. So I'm still a little bit in search of a hobby. But this was, again, as I said, before. After 2 kids, we now have a house, and we lived in a rental before. We now have a house that we are trying to make a garden outside and our own company. So it's like weekends is just trying to make it through, to be honest. Like, as long as we survive, I'm happy. I don't have any this is what I want to do in the weekends. Like, no, get through it. Everyone's keeping us alive. Like, that's where I have my bar at the moment. My kids are 7 and 4, so it's they do want. I mean, you want to give them of course a lot of attention as well. So you can't just like, ciao, now I'm gonna do my things. So we'll see. I'll get back to you on that with some more fun weekend plans when the kids are a little bit older. But for me it's opposite now. I'm an empty nester now, so my weekends are exactly the opposite from yours. But I do remember that it's a very intense situation, and you kind of like, it's the goal of the weekend is just to keep the kids busy and happy, basically. That's like and also try to do like maintenance stuff like cleaning and fixing and washing, and then all of a sudden the weekends are gone, so it's not always kind of like relaxed and enjoyable in that sense. I mean, they're enjoyable, but not in a way that they provide rest and relaxation. It's just another type of intensity compared to the weekday. So I do remember this very, very well. I mean, I think that's a situation that most people that are parents can definitely relate to, that the weekends is not perhaps what you
what you might dream of in that sense, or your dream weekend. I mean, you have to work with what you got, obviously, being a parent to small children. For me, it's the opposite, of course, now, because my children are grown up. I have one that is 25 and I have one that is 22. And my weekends now as a single person is actually very different, because I kind of live my life similar to the way I lived my life in my 20s before I had kids. So my kind of challenge for the weekends is usually to not feel lonely, basically, because that's the opposite, the other side of this card, right? Because now I'm single. Luckily, I do have lots of friends, so my weekends are quite similar in that on Saturday morning, I usually go here to the studio and work. And the reason for that is that my studio mate, Oscar, that also took the cover photos of our books Fit for Knit, he has a day job, so he is working here on Saturday. So we usually hang out here in the morning, and we have some fika around 11 and chat and catch up and, talk about things in life. And then in the afternoon, I usually have some type of social engagement. So I try to keep up with friends and maybe go see a band or something similar. And on Sundays, it's usually the day where I try to clean the apartment and to get that like final workout in. And also, I also have a nice habit now with a friend that we oftentimes meet up and have dinner together and watch Sex and the City reruns together.
Ooh, nice.
So, and if I don't, because usually my loneliness comes on Sunday evenings, and if I don't have company, then I usually, maybe I go here and do some work, or maybe I go to the gym later on that evening, because just to, or call a friend just to like combat the kind of like loneliness that I can definitely feel on Sundays. But overall, I actually am super happy with my weekends. I find them incredibly valuable, and I think I have a nice balance between things right now. So yeah. And I also do day trips as well. Yeah, and I also do day trips. I have my best friend lives in Malmö, which is the third largest city in Sweden, and so I often go there. I have several friends there, so maybe I go on Friday evening, and then I come back on Saturday and hang out. Maybe we go out to a club, or maybe do dancing, maybe go drink in a bar, and then I'm back on Saturday afternoon, and then I feel like I still have the entire weekend to myself and can do all the stuff like cleaning and working out and all that stuff and hanging out with friends. So yeah, I have a really nice. It's nothing spectacular, but it's a nice mix of things.
To me, as a small kid parent, that sounds spectacular. That's amazing. But how do you feel the balance between, I mean, you have your own business and not working constantly? Because I guess that's like a constant, like, I'm not doing anything special right now. Should I just be working then? Like, how do you find that balance? Since it's also like we love what we do. Sewing is a hobby, so the line is not so clear sometimes with work and pleasure.
Yeah, you're totally right. And now I try to switch a bit more, that I sew on projects on evenings and weekends if I have the time. But the good thing is, as I said, it's actually been really helpful now to have my own business, because as I said, I can sometimes feel a little bit lonely, even though I have social activities maybe like 4 or 5 times a week right now. I'm very busy, but I still can feel lonely. And the good thing is that my studio is only 5 minutes walk away from my apartment, which means that if I feel lonely, or instead of just sitting at home and mulling about it, I actually go to the studio, and sometimes I do work and sometimes I sew, and that can actually, it's been like helpful for me rather than but before, when the kids were smaller and everything like that, it was definitely a big struggle to find that mix, because I always felt like pulled in several different directions. And I should say that I've been running my business for many years in different forms, so I have definitely dealt with the fact of having smaller kids and also have a daytime job and running this business. So I know all about the intensity, and I never want to experience that intensity again. It's there's no way, you can't leave that unscattered. I think everyone is going to pay a price of being pulled in so many directions, for sure.
Yeah, true. So true. Next question. Role models. Do you have any like companies, persons, business-wise now, like you look up to when it comes to the sewing world, or outside the sewing world as well?
Yeah, I actually have someone outside the sewing world, and this is going to sound like really niche, but I highly recommend this. I think being from us in Sweden, there's a lot of, how should I say it, very successful people in the US, maybe, but sometimes it's hard to resonate with some of the approach they have, because it's just a different type of mentality, and we are not as comfortable putting ourselves out there, and so we have to find something that can relate. And my favorite inspiration is actually a guy called Matt Giovanisci. I hope I spelled this right. He's a US guy, and he runs a website called Swim You, which he definitely is doing the same thing as I do, but about how to take care of your swimming pools. And he is the more yeah, exactly. So I would say 90% of my business model is based on this guy's business model. So he published books about how to take care of your swimming pool and hot tub. How he has a successful YouTube channel. He do video courses and lots of email marketing and lots of blogging and tutorials. He also do a lot of social media. He is much more successful than I am. But and also do a podcast. And now he's doing a daily podcast. and he is such no BS, straight to the point, very humble guy that has so much sense, and he doesn't have any of that marketing lingo. He's just he is almost like a Swedish guy. So he's so nice to listen to. So almost every day now I listen to his podcast, because he's walking and talking, doing 10,000 steps every day, when he's like thinking out loud about how to pivot his business, because he also had a few struggles in the last few years with, I think, just like sewing, there was a boom during COVID, because a lot of people were like getting swimming pools and putting more, so he was doing quite well, and now of course he has to maybe adjust that for slightly less interest. But yeah, so Matt Giovanisci, Swim You, he is the guy.
That's like the perfect, how do you say, find your niche and be good at it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I never heard of that specific niche in anything. But is it like enjoyable to listen though, even if you don't have a swimming pool?
No, but he only talks about business. He talks about his business, yeah. So he's doing the same things. He's like struggling with email marketing. He's thinking about updating his books. Now he has moved to print books, which I do as well, and the struggles with that, and how to, what's the best way of increasing sales, and should he focus on the blog or should he focus on YouTube? How his process for editing videos. So he is basically doing the exact same business as I am doing, but instead of teaching people sewing,
very similar.
he teaches people to do how to take care of these swimming pools and hot tubs. So if you do have a swimming pool and hot tub, I can highly recommend Swim You or Swim University. That's probably the number one resource on that topic.
That is so funny.
Shout out to Matt. I don't think he's listening to this podcast, but yeah, great guy.
Oh, that sounds good. I actually have one similar, Sara Bäckmo. She is a Swedish, the same thing, but with gardening. She has written several books, and she also like gardening influencer, and she also has a podcast, and so I really enjoy listening to her, because she talks about gardening, and I'm so hardcore into gardening right now, but also she is also talking a lot about business and everything that comes around with it. And it's also like, she has a small business but big plans, and takes a lot of help from others. I don't know how many people, if they are actually hired by her, or if she is taking help from other freelancers. So there's a lot of similarities here as well, like with that can be applicable for my own business. So it's just very interesting to hear how she is working and how she is setting up things, and And yeah, sometimes it can be good to just listen to somebody that is completely out of your own field and just get new ways of thinking about it and get ideas from that. So if you're into gardening, I recommend Sara Bäckmo, Skillnadens trädgård. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's an amazing resource, and I wonder, I know because she's an incredibly intelligent person. Also, she's also has a background in media. She used to be a television journalist and producer, so of course she understands content as well and how to like package it and frame it. And I do remember that she talked in an interview a couple of years ago that she was trying to launch her website in English as well, because she found a niche there. But then I think it turned out with the VAT and the bookkeeping turned out to be like an absolute nightmare. I remember telling a story. She had put like I think it was like 1 million krona, which is like $100,000 or euro, into this project, only to realize that, you know, because of the VAT rules and everything, with the UK not being part of the European Union anymore, it was kind of impossible right now to roll it out. I wonder if it's still, because I think if there are English resources, I think we can definitely recommend her, and hopefully if you're not Swedish speaking, that you will still find, you know, useful content. But it's really sad that it's like that kind of a thing is because I think I listened to the same interview that's like, if you sell on a little bit like lower scale, like it's no problem with the VAT, because then I don't remember exactly how, but if you are starting to reach a certain number and go above it, then it's like you really need to go way above it to actually make financial sense of doing it. So it's like I think was there like in the middle of like, she is selling quite a lot, but not enough to actually like really, So it's so annoying that these kind of rules exist. It's like, but it's really hindering like small companies to elevate and to succeed. So it's it's not really. Things can be improved. Let's put it like that. It's definitely it makes it tricky, and I am someone who deals with the tax authorities in the UK, and you know, it takes more time and the fees are higher than the actual VAT money that I'm paying to the UK each month, but I have to follow the rules, and also of course, you know, that's challenging for us as well. I mean, we are based in Sweden, it's a small country, we're not a massive sewing community, which is the reason why we do so much content in English, because that's the only way of making it financially viable. Again, I guess it was the same reasoning for Sara, that, you know, she hit the ceiling. It's a small country, and you know, she can't really grow anymore, literally and figuratively. So yeah, I was very touched by that episode, because I could definitely relate to that kind of struggles, you know, trying to run an international business from a very small corner of the world, with lots of different rules and regulations in each different country. So, and if, as you say, Malena, if you don't make a lot of money in that country, sometimes you might end up not having to be able to establish yourself or sell products to that country, because it's just not worth it. But yeah, hopefully there is some English resources as well on her website, so you can get hooked on Sara Bäckmo. Great inspiration. Yeah, they're very similar. I think Matt and Sara have a very similar approach as well. They're very humble, very, very intelligent, and they have grown their companies in a very mindful and strategic, with a long-term view of things, and I definitely think that shows. So, and I think you're very, it's true, it's interesting that we both have inspiration outside the sewing world, and I don't know about you, but for me, I think it will cause me too much stress if I just focus on another sewing company, because then I will feel it will become too close to home, and I will probably feel a little bit bad because I wasn't able to do all the stuff that the bigger companies are doing with way more resources and financials.
Yeah, you get into the comparison trap so easily then, and also you take, I mean, there's a fine line between being inspired by somebody and copying somebody, and you don't want to do that as well. So if you are looking at someone who is completely in a different field, then it's you get your own ideas based on what that person is doing. But since it's a different business, it's you think in a new other direction then.
Yeah, interesting. And that's, we also, if there are any business owners listening to the podcast, we really love to hear your comments as well. If you have any resources or inspiration that you follow, so please drop us a comment either on our YouTube channel, Stitching Tales Pod, or our Instagram account, Stitching Tales Pod. All right, so we do another personal question then. So, Malena, what's your favorite type of cuisine? I think I pronounced that right. Meaning?
Well, my small kids right now at home, so the cuisine is like no, thank you.
There is no cuisine.
No, there is no. It's basically just as long as we eat something, I'm happy. But whenever I do any takeouts, or when I'm in Stockholm, for example, for work, and I get to go and buy something, it's Japanese, or it's sushi. I love sushi. I'm a sushi like so bad. Or some like teriyaki something. I mean, Japanese food is just I love it. It's so much. I really love it. But 99% of the time I do a sushi takeaway. I actually had one period, when I lived in Stockholm, when I think I ate like sushi 3 or 4 times a week or something. And I came to a point like I actually had to stop for like half a year. I was like, okay, enough. I can't eat anymore. But after that break, it's over. I'm eating it again. So yeah, I'm definitely a sushi fan. What about you?
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of Japanese food as well. I love it. And also should say that I eat a little bit of fish and shellfish, but I mostly eat a vegetarian diet and have been for maybe over 30 years. So I became a vegetarian when I was 16. So that's it's almost 40 years ago. And I do love sushi as well, and I also love ramen. Well-cooked ramen with nice broth. It's really good if they manage to do it vegetarian. I'm also basically, for any type of like Chinese food, like really good stir fries and noodles, that kind of I love. And also, I guess I'm also a big fan, again, because it's easy when you're vegetarian to, it's Swedish food, unless probably many of you have eaten at IKEA, but it's a very like meat heavy cuisine with meatballs and things like that. So if you become a vegetarian, it kind of prompts you to discover other type of cuisine and traditions, because there are lots more vegetarian options. So I'm also a big fan of Indian food as well, and I love that spicy stuff. I do it a lot myself, and I also treat myself. I have an awesome Indian restaurant just next door to me, and if I'm feeling like rich, no, it's not expensive, but it's such a nice way of doing like a big plate of lots of different side dishes and stuff. So I also like things with flavor. I'm definitely a spicy, so Thai food as well. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Definitely, I just like you. I kind of look to East Asia for a lot of my favorite dishes.
Yeah, it's funny how East Asia, like. Again, we lived in Shanghai for 2 years, so a lot of Chinese food as well. I love it. It's funny how that kind of cuisine is really speaking to us. I have really hard time also, like, what is Finnish food and what is typically Swedish food? Is it like it's too close to home? Like, I can't really pinpoint. Like, I don't know.
No.
Swedish meatballs, yeah. But,
yeah. It should be, I guess you should be noticed if you ever come to Sweden and you want to eat traditional Swedish food. Good luck to you, I say, because there 99% of all food places will either serve pasta, pizza, kebab, Indian food, Thai food, Japanese food. There are sushis in every corner in major cities. So you have to either go to maybe an upscale restaurant that kind of is what we call husmanskost, like traditional kind of rich food with lots of sauce and meat and potatoes, or you have to go to IKEA. and another tip I would say is to go to these where you have like areas a little bit outside the city center where companies are placed. There's usually kind of lunch restaurant there. That's where you can get that kind of traditional meat and potato food, like it's kind of rich in fat and cholesterol and stuff like that. So if you go into a city center and try to find like authentic Swedish food, yeah, it's going to be a struggle for sure.
Yeah, we are strong on the fika side instead.
Yeah.
Like fika for us is you do it at 10 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and it's a little sweet pastry, maybe something, and have a cup of coffee or tea to it. Like that's a Swedish way of eating.
Yeah, yeah. That's how we keep ourselves full during the day. That's where our main priorities are. Definitely. So if you go to Sweden, you will definitely find a coffee shop or coffee cafe in pretty much any corner as well. Because
Absolutely.
it's a very popular meeting place for people to see each other and meet up with friends and.
Yeah. I think the fika culture is stronger compared to the authentic food culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question. When you work, do you listen? Oh, what do you listen to? Music, podcast, audiobooks, or do you listen to anything at all?
Yeah, I am one of those persons that have to have my earphones on, both at my day job because I work at like an open office. How do you call it? Like everyone is in one single room, so the noise level is quite high. So in order to focus, I definitely need to have some type of sound on my headphones. But it all depends. I guess if I'm writing, I can't listen to a podcast because I don't hear a single word that they are saying. But I always have some type of music or playlist on Spotify. I'm like, I think when you get Spotify, you get this like yearly review. I mean, your year in review or what it's called, rewind, blah blah. And I think I was like in the upper 2%. The one I was listening, it was like, so basically, I'm pretty much listening to music, pretty much every waking hour, basically. Yeah, if I'm alone and if I'm with friends, I also listen to music. I'm a big music fan, which we can talk about we can talk about other hobbies as well. But yeah, so music is my favorite way of like getting a good vibe, and it depends, of course. Sometimes I want more upbeat music, and sometimes like more relaxed music. It kind of depends on the work I'm doing. But yeah, I have to have sounds. And what about you?
But if you are sewing or like doing illustrations where you don't have to think text, do you listen to podcasts then, or? Yeah,
then I listen to podcasts instead. Yeah, and all kinds of podcasts. I mean, just chatty podcasts, and we have the Swedish National Radio. They do a lot of audio documentaries, so I can binge through like a season of those and learn tons of stuff. That's really. I think it's the equivalent in the US of it's called MPC. You know, the public PBS. There's a public radio. Yeah, so that's public radio, and we this extremely high quality of that stuff. So you can basically just consume any of those channels and be like so much smarter at the end of the day, because you know the quality and the insights and you know it just blows my mind that we have so much incredible talent and well-produced content with lots of different nuances. I think we are very, very blessed in that.
Yeah, so true. I'm a little bit the same. When I usually listen to, in the morning, I always listen to the news, have that on for an hour or 1.5, like in the background. And then, but I have to stop it whenever I write something, because you can't listen to something talking and then writing at the same time. Like you need to choose. So then if I'm doing some writing, then I also listen to music, and otherwise it's different podcasts. And I have a lot of gardening podcasts that I listen to, but I can't really do that when I'm working, because then I'm just like, I don't want to work. I want to go outside and be in my garden. I want to do that then. I have like, then I get zero work motivation. Like, then it's like, no, I just want to go and look at my seeds and plan for the future. So I do listen to quite a lot of business podcasts, which I mean, if you look at my podcast feed, it might look like I'm like, okay, I'm really gonna go into business, like hardcore finance. It's like no, it's just to keep me motivated, and it's kind of fun to listen to small companies, how they are working and different strategies, and so I mostly listen to those kind of podcasts just to focus on doing actual work.
Yeah, it definitely helped with the mindset. I totally agree with you. You have to be in the right mode to take on different kind of like messages and stuff like that. And sometimes when I listen to business podcasts, I can't do it because I get stressed out because I realize that I have so much stuff that I should be doing in my business. So I have to do something else. Like it's just too much information.
Can't do it all.
No, yeah, I can't do it all. I'm like, yeah, I know I should be doing this as well, but I'm just one person that is stretching myself too thin.
It's funny, I have that with Instagram, but I don't have it at all with podcasts. So there I can listen like, yeah, this is how you should work with Pinterest. I'm like, ooh, interesting. I'll put that on my to-do list to do, I don't know, sometimes. But it's just fun to learn and to listen to.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice to have that option. I think that we are able to have so much audio information. I mean, it's such a massive change from when we only have radio stations. And now we can listen to pretty much all radio online as well. And not just that, we can listen to it not at when it's broadcasted, but, much later on. So it's such a difference in the way that we are able to consume audio content and of course visual content as well. So yeah, but I'm very grateful for it. I definitely think it makes the work days easier to have some type of audio distraction for sure. I totally agree with you. I also tried sometimes to watch like Midsummer Murders, like the UK crime series, for instance, when I'm sewing, but I do find it hard to keep up with the plot. Like I kind of lose the plot. Who was the murder and who was murdered? I'm like, probably not the best idea. You have to be on your toes a little bit for that kind of content. So yeah, audio is much better, I find, for sewing than watching. The only time I watch video is when I sew buttons and stuff. Then it's nice to watch something on the eye.
Yeah, true.
All right then. So the question now is actually, because we have talked a lot about sewing and how that kind of become our work, but I'm really curious, Malena, what other hobbies do you have? And I know you mentioned gardening, and so I'm really curious to hear more about that. And perhaps you have some other hobbies as well?
Well, I always have been working out. Like that has been a huge part of my hobby since I was very young. I don't do it. This is quite good, I think, because mentally I'm one of those who works out regularly. Reality, no, I don't. But since I have that, like, not vision, but like I have that mindset that I am one of those persons, it's very easy for me to start again. Like, no problems. And right now I'm really focusing on doing 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, like something small at home, just some random YouTube full body workout, just to get in just doing something. Because, I mean, with kids and everything, you don't have a lot of time. But working out has definitely been a hobby of mine. And yeah, gardening. When we moved away from Stockholm, then we lived in an apartment, and then here in Umeå we bought a house, and now since 2 years we have built our own house. I mean, not we paid for people who did it. We can't do that. But now we are doing the gardening. It was just like a gravel field basically, so we really started from scratch. So and that's gardening is a perfect hobby when you're home with kids, because you can do it like whenever. I always see on like yeah, you should do this in this time of the year. And it's like, nah, it's more like when I get the feeling and when I have the time, when those things occur, then I do it. So I'm not a good gardener, I would say. I'm a confident beginner. I try, I fail a lot, but it's like, yeah, you can just try some more then. And yeah, it's a never-ending thing as well, which is kind of nice. You can just continue, and when it comes to buying seeds, I'm one of those who big fabric stash. I can relate, because the amount of seed that I have, I will take a picture and post it on YouTube, on Instagram. I can grow forever and not getting through my stash. And did I buy something on the Black Friday sale? Yes, of course I did. So yeah, that is my guilty splurge. Like, there's no stop. And when you're buying seed, you are buying dreams. Like, I mean, it's so inexpensive. And you just like imagine what you can do with these, and imagine how nice it would look in your garden. It's not, I mean, quite often it's not so successful, because with seeds you have to really take care of them from the start to, I mean, along the whole way, and not forget to water like them for 1 week, then it will fail. So yeah, beginner, but confident.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Did you know that you were into gardening before you got your house? Did you have that itch before?
No, let's put it like this. When I was young, like not teenage, I moved away from home. And for one summer, I was living in my sister's apartment because she was working somewhere else. And yeah, she moved away her more expensive pots with flowers to her mother-in-law, because she did not have confidence in me being able to take care of her plants. So I come from that level.
Wow.
So it's been a journey. So yeah, I still consider myself a beginner, but it's also like, this is the things that I like. This is like the Venn diagram. This is the things that I like. This is the things that I grow, and there in between, yeah, those are the things that I have in my garden. So yeah, we'll see what suits me.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Also, of course, you have to work with the climate as well, and understanding what type of plants will work. So just like with sewing, I can imagine that this is a never-ending quest to learn more things. It will just keep on giving. You will never really be fully learned. There will always be new stuff to explore and different types of things to try. And of course, again, just like with sewing, there are so many resources out there. So there's a never-ending source of information to devour, I guess, and put into practice. So yeah, it sounds like a wonderful hobby. Plus you get to be outside as well, which you can't really do when you're sewing, unless you're sewing outdoors.
The only problem is the long winter we have here up in northern Sweden. It's it's a bit too long, but it's a good thing with also really cold winters, because then you don't have problems with, not the same problems as you have in southern Sweden with like, I don't know English words for this, like pesticides, like small animals and like eating all your snails and stuff. Exactly. Yeah,
mostly snails are probably one of the worst offenders. I think, if for outside gardening.
So we don't have that, and we have really intense summers as well. Like because it's, I mean, so the sun is up for so many hours a day. So like the strawberries up here is just like so much more tasteful compared to the south. So there are pros and cons, definitely. But yeah, no, I'm a passionate gardener, I would say.
Ah, that's so wonderful.
How about you? Do you have green fingers?
No, I do have lots and lots of plants in my apartment. I definitely feel very happy when I'm surrounded by greens, but it's definitely more of a survival of the fittest. So the only one that is like, they require minimum amount of water. My cat can eat it without getting poisoned. So it's actually not that many plants left, but those are. And also we have the same problems indoors with plants as well, that in the summer they are, pretty nice and lush and things, and then they in the wintertime they look really sad and depressed and start to lose a lot of leaves, and it's just it's difficult. But yeah, not a fan of like replanting, and not I just want to water them once a week. That's my like deal breaker, I think, for a plant. That's my never have I ever had a garden. Never will I ever have a garden. I am definitely an apartment girl, but I do miss a balcony. When I had that, I definitely had some plants in pots, and that was wonderful. That's just and I also, I sometimes I try to grow like herbs and stuff like that in my kitchen window with mixed results. But yeah, I love being outside in gardens that other people have worked on.
Yeah, that's nice at least. Do you have any other like craftsy hobbies besides sewing, or is it more into music and those kind of things?
Yeah, craftsy hobbies, not that much actually. I think that's my main thing. I guess my other hobbies, just like you, I am a big workout person. I've been always pretty active, but it kind of varies. I mean, right now I work out mostly in the gym, doing strength training 2-3 times a week, and I try to run once or twice a week. But again, the winter, the treadmill, but also now I am also a big. I love dancing. I love go out to clubs. I love go out to concert. I'm a huge music fan. But now my latest hobby now is that. Through a friend now, I've been introduced to free dancing. It's going to sound so woo-woo, but it's actually not. It's called like the 5 Elements dance. So basically, we meet up every Monday at a place here in Gothenburg, and we dance to music for 2 hours. It's just a nice spot. There's no alcohol or anything like that. It's just a nice older place with a big like ballroom situation, and that has been like such a nice mood lifter, especially such a great way of doing this on a Monday, because you get such a nice vibe, and it's a very open place in that sense. Some people are dancing very like big. I'm a huge dancer, so I dance all over the place. I have no inhibitions whatsoever. Other people may feel like they're a little bit low energy, so maybe they just do slow dancing. So I go there with 2 friends of mine every Monday now.
Like a social dance. Like it's not a gym class like a leader.
No, it's a free dance. So it's basically like aerobics but without the teacher. Mm-hmm. So the teacher kind of tells you, you focus on this movement, work with your core, or like do this with your arms, but it's very like free to be interpreted in different ways. So it's a little bit woo-woo, but not that much, so it kind of is of a turn off. So it definitely works if you're not into that stuff. You can still be like, you will just get a nice like club experience, but without the downside of going to a club.
I love the concept. Can we have it everywhere? I was once in Stockholm. They had this. It wasn't that often, unfortunately. They had this like we who just want to dance after work, and it started at 5 on a Friday, and it ended at 9. So at like 6 o'clock in the evening, it was like full on the dance floor. It was just crammed, packed, so much. I mean, it was so much fun. And then I was like, okay, 9 o'clock. Now it's over. Like, thank you. I will go home and sleep and be perfectly fine the day after. And it wasn't like, I think there were alcohol there, but it wasn't like, it wasn't that kind of a vibe. It was more just, we who love to dance. I think that is a perfect setup, because at nightclubs, like the best dance floor is that at 2 o'clock in the night, and I was like, I can't do that anymore. Like, it's never gonna happen. When we were young, 20-something, then, sure, but no. no, but I still love to dance, so, I mean, that sounds like a perfect thing.
Yeah, it's been such a... I've been looking for something like this, and it just came to me, basically through a guy I met through Tinder, so thank you, Tinder. And he was doing that, so I kind of tagged along. And then another friend also joined me, so now we are 3 people there, and we have so much fun. So that is one of my things, and I'm also a big music fan, as you. And I go to concerts a lot. I'm grateful that I live in the second largest city of Sweden, so lots of bands play here. We also have a massive festival in the summer which is the biggest like outdoor festival here in. It's like the Coachella of Sweden, way out west. So that's something I'm very, very. And if music, then I guess you could say I'm an indie head. I'm into that kind of music.
Specific genre,
yeah, electronic music especially, and indie music. Of course, I listen to a lot of other stuff as well, but that's my origin story. So tomorrow, which we are recording this on Thursday, tomorrow, Friday, I'm going to a concert and see the Electric Body Music Legends Front 242, and maybe one of you will recognize this reference, but it's a band that has been active since the 80s, and we're gonna have such a blast dancing all night long. It's so cool. These guys, they're doing their final tour now, and these guys are like, I think around 65, and they are like really energetic on the scenes, and I've seen them maybe 5 or 6 times, and they really put out a great show. But I definitely feel that they are, the health is taking its toll, so I think that's why they realize that they have to like cut down on touring but it's very inspiring to see people, mid-60s just killing it on stage.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. It's like muscle memory. They are just like, they know it so well. It's really cool to watch.
All right then. Did you have any more questions, or should we?
I'm done on my list. Do you have anything on your list?
No, I think we're pretty good to go, because we've done. I think we're 5 or 6 questions, but I really enjoyed this episode, and we definitely have more questions. And if you are also again want to know more personal stuff about us, you're definitely free to ask. You can either email us at stitchingtalespod with 1D at gmail.com, or comment on our Stitching Tail Pod Instagram account or our YouTube channel. And also we should say that sometimes when people ask for the video, we do have a video version of this podcast that is posted on Mondays. So if you go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe, you will actually see the podcast one day before, or a few hours at least before we are releasing the audio podcast. So you can go there as well. Anyways, thank you so much for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed this episode. I am Johanna Lundström.
And I am Malena Hjerpe. Bye bye.
Bye bye.